Hello, hello, hello. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the pre-show. Glad you're here. We got Daniel, we got Denise, we got Dead Sea Scrolls Gaming. How's it going? Sandra. Let's head on over to Rumble. We got some people on the Rumble. Nobody's chatting yet, though. I don't know who you people are, but thanks for being here. Make sure to hit that thumbs up early, folks. That really helps us out. And yeah, just do that. Please hit that thumbs up button and let the world know that you're watching. Who we got here? Oh, the Racing Heart over on Rumble. What is up? Okie dokie. Well, just a reminder, folks. Well, a couple things. Number one, we are value for value here. We have no commercials, no advertising dollars, no cartel money, nothing. We are entirely funded by people who get value from the show, and that, I hope, that's you. And you know, it's been a slow couple weeks, maybe even a couple months. But today, so far, is the slowest episode, producership wise. So if you've been thinking about it, you've been praying about it, you've been feeling that tug on your heart to get involved with helping us pay for childcare costs and keeping this show going, why don't you consider producing the show today? That'd be great. Of course, you can produce in lots of different ways. You can go to canarycry.support, help us out financially. That goes a long way to keeping this show on the air. But you can also do it with your time, your talent, or your prayers, of course. And just a reminder, you can go to canarycrynewstalk.com. You got that right. Canary Cry News Talk. Sorry, I'm burping. I'm getting my show burps out of the way. canarycrynewstalk.com. You'll see a green tab on the bottom or the right-hand side. Click on that, and you can leave us a prayer, and we'll play that prayer on a future episode. It's a great way to start out the stream. It's made it to the podcast version now, and a great way to get involved in the sort of spiritual health of the show. canarycrynewstalk.com. Click on the green tab, leave us a prayer. 90 seconds, baby. And with that, we'll play this prayer and jump right into the show.
Hey guys, this is Jonathan up in North Idaho. Just wanted to say a quick prayer and thank you guys for all you do. Dear Lord, we come before you most of all to give you thanks. Thank you for what you're doing, Lord. We thank you for everything. We thank you that you're able to go above and beyond what we can imagine or think, Lord. So we thank you, Father, that even with our prayers that we come to you, you go above and beyond. We thank you that you aren't limited by our intellect or our knowledge, but we thank you, Lord, that your ability is greater. So, Father, a lot of us know a lot of stuff, but you're all-knowing, Lord. And we thank you that you know what we need, and you're able to put us in the right place at the right time by your grace. So we thank you, Father, that you do it all. And we ask that you give us the wisdom to see your plans and your lighted footsteps ahead of us. We thank you that our words will line up with your will and our actions. So, Father, we thank you again that you're awesome. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Today is July 5th, 2023. We are live to tape on episode 642. And today, it's the Snow White House. Been signing on from off the grid. Razzle Dazzle. I'm your best buddy, Basil.
And my name is Gons, director of the Age of Deceit Films, your favorite Asian provocateur for Christ, live to tape from California to bring you the best news, which is the gospel message of Jesus Christ, while reporting the egregious with a well-rounded, biblically grounded take on world events. And today's emergent phenomenon, other than leakage above me, which I'll talk about in a little bit, is change.
Change.
A leopard cannot change its spots, right?
Change.
But you can pluck its hairs. You can dye its hairs. You can bleach it, you know? It's kind of what's going on. That's my analogy.
What a mysterious analogy.
It'll be pretty clear once we get through everything here.
All will become apparent, folks. And with that, well, it is the day after 4th of July. So happy 4th of July, everybody. Happy 5th of July, if you observe. And I think it's time we just jump right into it, Gons. So you want to play a disclaimer to tell all the mean people at YouTube how we feel?
They're not mean. They're just misled.
It's time for a disclaimer.
Now listen up, YouTube.
That's right. And just for all the content moderators and censorship managers out there, be they robots or humans, everything you hear on this show comes directly from the mainstream corporate news media. We do not claim to be experts on healthcare, geopolitics, military strategy, corporate law, or the moral and ethical implications of any of these topics, nor do we implicitly or explicitly support or subscribe to any sources or narratives containing misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation, as defined by the Department of Homeland Security. We're good boys. All right, YouTube, we're good boys. And let me give you that rundown.
Oh, look, here's Basil.
Let me bring you up to speed.
Well, we're starting out with a big story that sort of portends to affect the online media landscape, perhaps for the rest of our lives. That's right, a federal judge limiting the Biden administration from contacting or being in conversation with social media sites. We'll see what the details are there. And then, of course, got to check in with our good buddy Chris SHILLZILLA, who is back in the news, finally being called upon to give his expertise in sports presidents who play sports or something. I don't know. We'll find out. FLIPPY, the robot, he's coming for you. Watch out for that. But then some more extravagant statements by the Biden administration regarding this brand new term that we all learned last year called false flags. That's right. We're supposed to be keeping our eyes open for another false flag. What does that mean? Well, I think we all know exactly what that means. But to take our minds off that, we will be checking in with AI and aliens, a little bit of free energy, you know, some real fun stuff in the middle of the show there. And then Larry Fink of BlackRock changing his tune on some big topics. And no, not just the rebuilding of Ukraine. Indeed, perhaps the rebuilding of the entire global financial sector. Then at the end of the show, The Atlantic has one place, the last place any tourist should visit on the planet. I bet you can't guess what it is, folks. But first, our lead stories.
This is the United States of America, for God's sake.
Got hairy legs. Got hairy legs.
This is not about freedom for personal choice.
Got hairy legs. Got hairy legs. Hairy
COVID.
Harry COVID. New York Times has an article headline here. Federal judge limits Biden officials' contacts with social media sites. A federal judge in Louisiana on Tuesday restricted the Biden administration from communicating with social media platforms about broad swaths of content online, a ruling that could curtail efforts to combat false and misleading narratives about the coronavirus pandemic and other issues. The order, which could have significant First Amendment implications, is a major development in a fierce legal fight over the boundaries and limits of speech online.
So they're saying this would, at least the New York Times is reporting that this would make it more difficult to fight misleading narratives, but Aren't they the ones peddling the misleading narratives? I'm kind of confused about are they putting a gag on themselves? What's going on here?
It is really, and well, it's the New York Times. They're the sanctioned official narrative, so this actually benefits them quite a bit. But yeah, to put this in simple terms, a federal judge, depending on which outlet you're reading, some of them say a Trump-appointed judge has blocked official communications from the executive branch of the government. I think any branch of the government actually, blocking them from communicating with social media sites, specifically, and we'd put it in layman's terms, censorship meetings.
Right.
No longer can Biden pick up the red phone and have stories about his son swiped from the internet.
Isn't this partly due to the whole Twittergate thing too? When Elon started showing all the communications between political leaders and cabinets or whatever with certain people in Twitter to censor certain accounts or whatever it may be. So they're basically saying can't do that anymore. So
you had FBI, you had, I believe, DOJ, you had just some downright cabinet members.
And they weren't even censoring like big accounts. I mean, they were at times, obviously, but there were a few examples where it was like, why are you even worried about some small random account? It was very bizarre the way they went about it.
56 followers. One of them, somebody at the White House didn't like a tweet from an account that had 56 followers, and they got it banned. Now, we've lived through this. We've, of course, gone through this in real time over the past few years. The New York Times goes on just a little bit here. It was a victory for Republicans who have often accused social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube of disproportionately taking down right-leaning content. I think it's a little bit, of course, a little bit politicized, it's kind of needlessly for New York Times to be saying it's Republicans. It's a victory for Republicans. So it's bad. It's bad if this judge is, actively keeping the government from censoring stuff it doesn't like just for the fact that it doesn't like it. That means it's Republican, means it's evil, means we need to fight against it, of course. Disproportionately taking down right-leaning content, sometimes in collaboration with government. Democrats say the platforms have failed to adequately police misinformation and hateful speech, leading to dangerous outcomes, including violence.
So there you go. This is becoming bipartisan. They both hate the tech companies, the social media platforms, just in different ways.
For different reasons, right? So this is coming from Judge Terry A. Doherty of the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Louisiana, said that parts of the government, including the Department of Health and Human Services and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, could not talk to social media companies for, quote, the purpose of urging, encouraging, pressuring, or inducing in any manner the removal, deletion, suppression, or reduction of content containing protected free speech. It's a pretty big deal. The lots of online commentators, influencer types, even Glenn Greenwald himself is having a big conversation about this. It's the type of movement in the right direction that we can celebrate. However, we shouldn't get too excited because it is temporary. This is a temporary injunction or something while this court case makes it through its processes.
I do think it's interesting because isn't the other side, the tech side and the government side, aren't they saying basically that this is, ironically, they're saying this is against free speech, like their ability to practice free speech?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's always been the rub with this, which is, a company like Twitter or Facebook or whatever can practice their own free speech in the act of limiting other people's speech. It's interestingly similar to the recent Supreme Court case regarding the businesses or creative professionals who cannot be forced to create speech that they don't believe in. You know, the cakes thing, the website person who didn't want to make a website for a gay wedding. It was because it coerces speech on that creative person. So yeah, in a way, somebody could try to make the defense that Facebook, it's coercive for them to allow speech they don't agree with, which is the beauty. It's the beauty of the American system, Gons, that everybody can read the same line in the Constitution and just fight about it for sort of hundreds of years.
Oh, I'm unfamiliar with this idea of a singular document and many people having different opinions about it and arguing about it.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's fun. Yeah. So, I mean, it is a temporary win for the free speech sort of enthusiasts. We will see how that ends up. It's one thing for them to sort of put a pause on this while they figure it out. It's another thing. It's an entirely different sort of set of pain points regarding everybody like us, but many others who got suspended or not just shadow banned, but actually banned, losing channels, things like this, because of this precise, finagling of the Constitution by the government. Restitution. That's what we need, Guns.
We'll see.
What is it called?
Reparations?
Reparations.
Yeah, give me back my channel and then some, what I lost financially because of it, which I don't know what that would be. Probably not much.
As they say in the courts, Guns, you do have standing.
I do, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, there's a lot of talk about what's going on at the White House and the stuff that was found there. We talked about it the other day, and I apologize for the noise in the background here. Maybe I should address it now because it's getting kind of loud. We discovered just maybe an hour or two before we went live today that there is a pipe, like a water leak in one of the pipes above me in the garage that connects to the house, and it's dripping pretty bad. So plumbers here, they're looking at it. They're going through what they need to do. So that's the noise. So garage doors open. It's a nice sunny day here, so no complaints. But yeah, so I apologize for the sound.
You've got a live audience, an in-person audience.
Yes, working audience. Unless they have their earphones in, would have to listen to one half of Canary Cry News Talk today.
Was it leaking like onto your head? Was there some sort of torture, water torture?
It was water torturing my wife's car, actually.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, that's not good.
Yeah, if a human endured that much, though, it might need to get some VR therapy, psychological therapy.
Yeah, right. Water droplets on the car kind of defeats the purpose of a garage. So, anyways, it makes it exciting.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry about that. Let's move on to some more important issues like SHILLZILLA.
Shill for sure.
Now, before we dive into this story, I do want you, Basil, real briefly, to anyone who is new to the show, explain to them and maybe refresh the memories of some of our longer listeners, who is SHILLZILLA, more commonly known, or in the real world known as Chris Cillizza.
Yes, Chris Cillizza. He was formerly at CNN for many years, but he was sort of the title that he had on his Twitter page was editor at large, which meant he sort of got to do CNN's sort of vlogging on YouTube. He wasn't on television. He wasn't allowed in the building. He wasn't. So he would write these sort of insane opinion pieces, mostly on Trump, of course. And he has this really weird loosey-goosey writing style that doesn't come across as news at all. It's a blog post, basically.
Yeah.
And they let him post his show. I think it was The Point.
The Point.
With Chris Cillizza on the CNN YouTube channel. And that was his thing. He seemed to be to some degree like unaccountable in any way to anyone. He's sort of just kind of on the loose, mostly just having fun with it. Then, of course, he started a podcast that we got to make fun of for a couple episodes.
Lots of
and then that
meatballs,
ended.
delicious.
That's right. And inevitably, as we saw it coming, he lost his job at CNN and has been off on his own for quite some time. One of the things that he accomplished during his time away from CNN is he wrote a book. He wrote a book.
Finally finished that book he'd been working on for 15
he'd been
years.
talking about it. He'd been talking about it for a while. And that book's called Power Players, Sports, Politics, and the American Presidency.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and, from what I can tell, it was a book about presidents who played sports.
You know,
which is mixing Chris SHILLZILLA's many interests.
I was kind of thinking, more fun. I'm starting to think a little more tinfoil hat about this. About maybe Chris SHILLZILLA as sort of the leading Pied Piper into what we started seeing with the RFK stuff. But anyway, let's talk about this article because it's from AXIOS, which is already interesting the way they reported this. AXIOS headline here: Younger 2024 candidates highlight athletic prowess. Yeah, there's a big picture of a flexing bicep with a vote tattoo on it, which means what it does. From tennis to push-ups to running, candidates challenging former President Trump and President Biden are emphasizing their athletic abilities. Why it matters: the messaging from the challengers is clear. They're young, they're energetic, and in better physical and perhaps mental shape to do it, or to do the job. What we're watching: entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, 37, has incorporated tennis into his campaign schedule, hosting events like Tennis with Vivek and posting videos of himself playing. All right, Vivek showing off his tennis skills and doing politics.
So, just for some context, Axios is this very interesting outlet. If you are, been watching this show for a while, you know this, but if you're new, they're not like other news outlets. They don't write articles in a traditional sense, which they're hoping, and I think to some degree they accomplish. This gives it a little bit more of a factual feel. They do bullet points and they do, these little sections like, why does this matter? What are we watching? What's the evidence? Flashback, the stuff like this. And they kind of format it as if they're maybe putting together a PowerPoint presentation and not an article. And in some ways, this is nice because you kind of get rid of, sort of ironically, the Chris SHILLZILLA-ness that is American journalism, which is, these journalists who are more like activists, who are more like bloggers, who just kind of, let their personality shine in their journalistic pursuits. But Axios goes for this like very boom, 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 facts, bullet points type of presentation.
Right.
In this particular piece of news, the bullet points, the facts that they are trying to communicate is there are younger, more athletic candidates than Trump and Biden. So listen up, factoids.
Yeah, pretty loose on, well, not loose, just obvious on the facts. So just as a note here, the article is written by Sophia Kai. It's not written by SHILLZILLA. You'll understand why it's a SHILLZILLA segment in a moment. So now we go into the bullet points. They talk about Vivek Ramaswamy and his whole tennis vibe going on. They mention RFK, obviously, 69, doing push-ups. In a recent video, an incline press shirtless and in skinny jeans went viral. Of course, we talked about that. Stole Basil's heart. We know who he's voting for. The super PAC aligned with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, 44, former captain at Yale's baseball team, mailed out baseball cards featuring DeSantis at bat and highlighting his stint in the Little League World Series. He even sat for a whole interview with Fox on his own hometown baseball field.
This is great. DeSantis. Did not know DeSantis was the captain of Yale's baseball team and played in the Little League World Series. I mean, come on. How have we not heard of this before? And I'm a little bit upset that I did not receive a Ron DeSantis baseball card from this super PAC here. If somebody has one of these, if anybody, maybe a Florida listener or something, if you received one of these DeSantis baseball cards, you can find our P.O. box at canarycry.support. I would love to have it, and we'll give you producer credit.
Did he actually play at Yale? Captain at
I
Yale,
mean,
huh?
allegedly, he's the captain of Yale's baseball team.
All right. Well, okay. Let's see.
Onward.
Yeah, onward.
Tim Scott.
I'm confused about that thing. Okay. Tim Scott, 57, a high school football standout, has blasted out a photo of himself sweaty mid-workout on a treadmill, tossing around a football with his campaign manager.
Presidential.
So presidential. Miami Mayor Francis Suarez' entire campaign announcement video features Suarez, 45, running through the city of Miami.
What are you running from? What are you running from, Francis?
A white supremacist. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin, 56, who's mulling a presidential bid, has been on the basketball court with state lawmakers. Okay, so he's on a basketball court. That must be...
This is my favorite part. Between the lines.
Yes, between the lines. Biden, 80, bikes and uses the Peloton, working out at least 5 days a week. And Trump, 77, golfs.
I don't think they should be reminding us about Biden's bike riding record.
And Peloton, too, because Peloton, wasn't there a huge recall and a big old problem with Peloton?
Yeah.
So not the greatest product to be aligned with there. And yeah, what's wrong with Trump's golf? The golf, you can make... I've been watching some golf recently. Learning about golf.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I have zero knowledge about the PGA and all this kind of stuff, and there's a whole Netflix documentary show.
The Live.
And I didn't realize these guys go out on the golf course in a weekend. They can make more money than we do if we podcasted for like 30
in a
years.
Year.
Oh,
Yeah.
a year would be nice. No, year times 10 maybe like 10 years worth.
What do they make? Like $1 million a weekend or something?
$1 million to $2 million depending on the event.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's unbelievable. And then they get all mad at them, come on.
Okay.
Trying to put a ball
back
in the
to
hole.
the
Anyway,
article,
Trump, you walk around. He's in shape. All right, back to the article. Here's where it gets real good. Here's
be a bit of a stretch, but okay.
Here's where it gets awesome. Quote: "There's an inherent contrast that none of them will come right out and say." Chris CCNT, author of Power Players, Sports Politics, and the American Presidency, told Axios. It goes on.
Cool.
Quote,
what is it?
Quote, "When you have a Democratic president who is 80 and about whom the public has major doubts that he is up to the job, having RFK Jr. doing push-ups and showing off his physique is an obvious way to compare the two." End quote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good insight
Good
there, Chris.
input, Chris. This seems like a favor. This does not seem like
I think this whole article is a favor to Chris. I think this is a what's the word? A native ad that maybe Chris pulled a favor or paid a few bucks or something, because nobody else is even quoted in this article.
There are other people quoted, but it's not very.
Who else is quoted?
Obama's campaign manager.
Well, nobody was contacted for the art.
Sure. Yeah. They quote David Plouffe, who's Obama's campaign manager, but it is a quote. I don't think it's a direct note to Axios. Yeah. So I think you're right. I think maybe this is Sophia Kai here, this author of this article, trying to get a career going. She's got a little thing at Axios, and she knows Chris. He, gives her some ideas.
It's just out of all the things there are to be talking about this election, an entire Axios, listicle or whatever, is devoted to there are younger and sportier candidates.
The younger ones are in shape. The old ones, not as much.
Some of them are in shape. The older ones, not so much. Isn't that quite the contrast? What do you think, Chris CCNT, former CNN blogger? Why don't you tell me more about your book?
Oh, easy. We're trying to get him on the show. You can't be mean to him.
He is not. He is. Look, I've reached out many times. If Chris was going to come on the show, he's had his chance.
I'm Chris
CCNT. Defend yourself.
What?
Hi, Chris.
I'm Chris CCNT.
Oh my gosh,
you just got to lure him with meatballs.
Starting early. All right, so there you go. Keep an eye on the election, folks, because you may not have noticed there are some young sporty candidates and there are some not young sporty candidates, and the future of America is in their hands. All right, let's keep this going, guys. We're losing it.
Okay, hold
All
on.
right.
Garage is closing, but on this Wednesday, but I will mute myself, so you will not.
Okay.
Oh, there it goes. There it goes. Here we go.
It is Wednesday, my dudes. Wednesday.
Hey guys, know what day it is? It's Wednesday. It's time for the Canary Cry News Talk. Yeehaw!
Wednesday, my dudes.
Yep, it's Wednesday, the day after the 4th of July. Hope everybody had a wonderful holiday there. And it feels weird. We're back. I don't know why it feels weird. The holiday sort of bent time around me, I guess. I didn't even do anything very exciting for the 4th. What did you do?
Had a bunch of family over to the new place.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can't do 4th of July, especially with my folks in town, without kalbi, which is actually Korean barbecue. I'm not Korean, but they like the Korean barbecue, of course. And hot dogs and salmon. Kalbi,
the 4th of July
hot dogs.
treat.
Yeah, you know what I was noticing? I was talking to my dad, and we had the TV on and watching the hot dog eating contest. What's up with the Japanese? What is up with my ethnic people who, first of all, the guy who brought competitive eating to America is some Japanese guy. He's like a skinny Japanese dude who came and the record was like 25 hot dogs, and he shattered it by eating 50. And then I was watching the women's competition, and the top 2 finishers are 2 Japanese women.
Yeah,
they're just chomping down those hot dogs, and I'm like,
what is wrong with man?
What is wrong with us? I don't get it.
I don't think anything's wrong. What is right? What do the Japanese know that I don't know? That's what we really need to figure out.
Large robots and making sure we can out-eat Americans when it comes to hot dogs. So anyway, I had all the food, and my sister brought the dessert, and it was like, brownie stuff, a little cheesecake thing. It was delicious. But as she was handing it out and giving everybody the food, she was like, diabetes, here's everyone's diabetes. And I was kind of like, nice. But also, man, was it rich, to the point where I didn't sleep well.
What was it?
It was just cheesecake and brownie. I mean, I just ate too much. I ate way too much food. I've been eating a lot less since I moved in, and it's been nice. I've been losing weight, but yesterday it was just too much food, especially too much dessert. And so in the middle of the night, I get the acid reflux, and it goes into my sinus. And so I'm all, run to the bathroom, and I'm trying to clear myself out. And I wake up, and just the stench of the acid is like in my sinuses. So,
dear Lord,
it's been. And then we find out that there's a huge leak in our roof or in our ceiling here in the garage, and So
it's been a long holiday for you.
It's been eventful, to say the least.
Okay.
Day and night,
24/7.
Never a dull
Just
moment.
the way the forefathers would have wanted it, Gons.
Well, sorry to comment.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We need a quote. We need a quote from Chris. I didn't do anything. I did eat some hot dogs. There's a cool hot dog place in town that I went, and they have, I don't know, there's like a specialty hot dogs from around the world. Like they have a Korean one and a Basque one and a German one, and that's how you order it. You just order it by saying, I'll have the American one. It was pretty good, but that was pretty much it. I then got extremely sleepy and pretty much went home and fell asleep. Yeah, it was a good time.
That's a pattern. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, good stuff. And it does feel a little bit like Monday today because we had the big day off yesterday, supposedly. But
yeah,
hey, we're here. We're doing it. And we got some executive producers to thank.
Yep, let's do it.
Executive producers.
That's right, folks. We're on the value for value model, which means we take no money from corporations, commies, or cartels. Nope, we're entirely funded by people who get value from the show. And hopefully that's you. If you get value from this show, consider putting some value back in with your time, your talent, or your treasure. It is the only reason that this show still exists, is because once in a while, everybody who gets value puts some value back in. It's a better way to do what we're doing. You don't want us turning around and selling your attention, gaining your attention and your trust, and turning around and selling it to corporations for our own personal gain. That just doesn't sound like a good way to run an integrous media property. No. Instead, if you get value, put value back in. You can do it with your time, your talent, or your treasure. Go to canarycry.support to do that, or to learn more. And executive producers, people who come in and support any individual episode with $100 or more, they're extra special. And we like to thank them here at the top of the show. And it's been slow, Gons. It's been slow recently. But today we did get to start out the show with an executive producer. And that executive producer is, well, executive producers, the Underwoods.
Thank you to the Underwoods.
Yes, the Underwoods. They sent a note here. It says, so grateful to God for y'all both. Never give up. We'll love y'all. We love y'all. God bless. In Jesus' name, love always, the Underwoods. Thank you very much, the Underwoods.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I was going through some old emails trying to remember some information. And yeah, there's a whole gang of Underwoods that support the show and listen to the show. So shout out to all the Underwoods. And thank you very much for executive producing this show.
Where'd you find this?
Went a long way to paying for the babysitter today.
Absolutely.
Okay, so there you go. There's that. I don't think, is there anything else to announce here at the top of the show? That's our only executive producer.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's still time. It's been a slow couple weeks here with producership. So consider the value, consider the lilies of the valley, consider the lilies of the value. And if this show brings any value to your life, you get to choose what that number is and what form that value takes, and put some value back in. It's the only way that we can keep going. Indeed, once we stop, providing enough value that people put it back in, the show stops. It's an easy career signal for us. So if you enjoy the show, go to canarycry.support.
Some people think that this is the worst part of the show, Basil, thanking the actual people that make the show happen. So,
Yeah, I'm seeing that. This person on YouTube. See, and here's the one thing you can always guarantee when somebody complains about producers,
they've never
and that is that they've never produced the show.
Yeah.
You only, they just want the free content. They don't want to thank any of their community members for participating and keeping it alive. And yet they don't participate in keeping it alive themselves. Sorry to blow up your spot, but that's what you get.
Look, they have. They said they have.
Oh, well, I will go check the records. Easy to say.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, with that, let's go ahead and keep the show rolling. Are you ready for the Flippy update?
Yep.
Flippy update.
Do you want fries with that?
That's right, folks. Time for the Flippy update. Flippy is our colloquial name for the disembodied robot arms that are taking our jobs, enslaving our children, and flirting with our spouses. We use talking about Flippy as a way to explore all the new, fun, and exciting ways that robots are taking over the world. Now there's nothing we can do about it today. Flippy updates coming from SciTechDaily.com. The headline is "Giving Robots Rights is a Bad Idea, but Confucianism offers an alternative." There's an alternative, Gons, and
who wrote
comes
this?
from
Is
Confucianism.
a Chinese plant wrote this?
Is Confucianism, is that Chinese or is
I
that
believe so.
Japanese
I
or
think
sort of just
Confucianism-
generally Eastern?
Well,
Okay.
Confucius Institute. Remember?
Good point. Yep. All right. It goes like this. Notable philosophers and legal experts have delved into the moral and legal implications of robots. They must be talking about me. Notable philosophers and legal experts. with a few advocating for giving robots rights. As robots become more integrated into various aspects of life, a recent review of research on robot rights concluded that extending rights to robots is a bad idea. The study, instead, proposes a Confucian-inspired approach. This review by a scholar from Carnegie Mellon University, that's a good clue right there, Carnegie Mellon, was recently published in the Communications of the ACM, a journal published by the Association for Computing Machinery. Quote, people are worried about the risks of granting rights to robots, notes Taiwan Kim, associate professor of business ethics at CMU's Tepper School of Business, who conducted the analysis. Quote, granting rights is not the only way to address the moral status of robots. Envisioning robots as rights bearers, not a rights bearers, could work better. Now, you kind of got to see this to really understand what they're trying to say here. They're talking about giving robots rights, R-I-G-H-T-S, rights, like our inalienable rights. But this person is envisioning robots as rights bearers, R-I-T-E-S. Now, that might seem like a little nitpicky and philosophically smushy, but just should we grab the definitions of this, or do they give them in here?
Yeah, you can just keep reading. I think they
they explain it here in a second. Although many believe that respecting robots should lead to granting them rights, Kim argues for a different approach. Confucianism, an ancient Chinese belief system, focuses on the social value of achieving harmony. Individuals are made distinctively human by their ability to conceive of interests, not purely in terms of personal self-interest, but in terms that include a relational and communal self. This, in turn, requires a unique perspective on rights. R-I-T-E-S, with people enhancing themselves morally by participating in proper rituals.
Right. So the right, the R-I-T-E is connected to ritual, and it's like a rite of passage.
Religious rites. Religious rites. They're ceremonies or practices, things like that. Now, this is connecting to previous FLIPPY update, where there was discussion about the robotic Buddhist monks. Yeah. I believe there's Hindu version as well, performing rituals. And, there's conversation about how if the robot is doing a religious ritual, does it mean the robot can find salvation, or are they actually interacting with the divine? Are they just going through motions? What is the point there? And previously, I think it was Buddhist, it could have been Hindu, professors came in and said, you know what? According to the theology, these robots who are performing rituals are better at being religious Hindus or religious Buddhists than humans. They are actually excelling at spirituality because of their ability to conduct these rituals, these rites. And in the same way, they're having this conversation here, which is giving robots rights, like inalienable rights, versus giving them rights, like giving them religious practices. Yeah, right. Although many this in turn requires okay, let me read this part again. Although many believe that respecting robots should lead to granting them rights, Kim argues for a different approach. Confucianism, an ancient Chinese belief system, focuses on the social value of achieving harmony. Individuals are made distinctively human by their ability to conceive of interests not purely in terms of personal self-interest. So they are made distinctly human by participating in rites, but in terms that include a relational and communal self. This, in turn, requires a unique perspective on rights, with people enhancing themselves morally by participating in proper rituals. So by performing the rituals, you become people. And this is where they are applying this to robots. When considering robots, Kim suggests that the Confucian alternative of assigning rights, or what he calls role obligations, to robots is more appropriate than giving robots rights. The concept of rights is often adversarial and competitive. They're talking about personal rights. And potential conflict between humans and robots is concerning. We've talked about that a lot on the Flippy update. Whose rights are more important, the right of a human or the right of a robot? How are they sort of hierarchied, things like that? Quote, assigning role obligations to robots encourages teamwork, which triggers an understanding that fulfilling those obligations should be done harmoniously, explains Kim. Quote, artificial intelligence imitates human intelligence, so for robots to develop as rights bearers, meaning ritual doers, they must be powered by a type of AI that can imitate humans' capacity to recognize and execute team activities. And a machine can learn that ability in various ways. So they're talking about when it comes to giving robots rights, in both spellings of the word, the robot needs to be able to conceptualize why it is doing the things that it's doing, and doing it with a purpose of, I don't know, like making society better or becoming a better robot or something like that. Kim acknowledges that some will question why robots should be treated respectfully in the first place. Quote, to the extent that we make robots in our image, if we don't treat them well as entities capable of participating in rights, we degrade ourselves, he suggests. Again, going to this religious notion that if a person or an object can participate in religious ritual, that then makes them morally superior. Where a robot who perfectly executes a religious ritual is actually a more spiritual being than a human who does the ritual poorly. And in this case, in this Confucian sort of rendering of the idea, by not treating the robot well, it actually degrades our own morality. Because in their theology, the robot is a person, maybe a better person, and to be mean to that person makes you a worse person. So we can dehumanize ourselves by being mean to the robots. And you can see how this is lining up perfectly with a lot of the, I'd say, more secular conversations about robots that we've been having on the Flippy update for quite some time. It's almost done here. Various non-natural entities, such as corporations, are considered people, and even assume some constitutional rights. In addition, humans are not the only species with moral and legal status. In most developed societies, moral and legal considerations preclude researchers from gratuitously using animals for lab experiments. So kind of bringing up the animal rights conversation in conjunction with the robots, which we've also covered on the Flippy update, how animal rights and robot rights are actually sort of walking hand in hand. And the idea, both ideas sort of support each other.
And we actually, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. I just was saying, I found this article really fascinating. I mean, look, on the Flippy update, we're always having fun talking about our good buddy Flippy flipping burgers, skydiving, whatever he's up to next. But occasionally some really interesting sort of philosophical and scholarly conversations happen in regard to not just how do robots fit into society, but how do they fit into humanity? How are we to conceive of them? How are we as individuals not only supposed to treat robots, but think and feel about robots? And in this case, it sounds like we should think and feel like they're more people than we are.
More people, or more able to fulfill tasks that facilitate human community, almost like an organizer type,
right,
as part of the fabric of human existence.
Yeah.
And the non-natural entities, the mention of corporations, The reason why I dinged the bell is because we've talked about that in terms of personhood. I do recall having that conversation, that a corporation is kind of like that. They're not really a living thing, but they get sort of the kinds of protections and certain constitutional rights that people do. And in that sense, robots are going to be fantastic necro-capitalists.
Necro-capitalism.
Profiteers of death.
Capitalism.
And if we're not careful, they're going to make a lot of money on killing us, or
it's
our
all
dead bodies
coming together, guys. It's all coming together. Well, there's your Flippy update for the day.
Excellent.
Hope you sleep well at night.
Yeah, give the robots rights, not rights. That's not a hard conversation to have with people. Hey, should robots have rights? No, they shouldn't. They should have rights.
And you shall hear wars and rumors of wars.
Fight for Ukraine. New world order.
The saga continues. The script must be played out. And much like the actual Snow White, I know that was in reference to the White House today, but have you heard about the real story of Snow White, Basil?
No.
Oh, so the actual written Snow White story is much more adult themed, and it's got weirder stuff going on. The girl is actually 7 years old, and she has to dance to her death, and there's all kinds of craziness going on in the actual story. But the one that people get publicly is sort of the nice, cleaned up version, The
Disney version.
The Disney version. And I think similar things are going on here with all kinds of topics, but specifically Ukraine and Russia. This is from The Guardian, and the headline here: objects resembling explosives planted at Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant, says Kyiv.
Oh, this is an update.
Is it?
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, this is an update from what I read, so I'm getting this firsthand. Tell me more.
The Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelenskiy, they spelled it weird in this one. Is this the British spelling? Zelenskiy instead of the two Ys?
Oh, interesting. I have no idea.
Or maybe he's just, because he's an actor, he gets to keep changing his name. Volodymyr Zelenskiy has again claimed Russia may be planning to, quote, simulate an attack on the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Simulate an attack, Basil. Not
very
actually
interesting.
Just simulate
very interesting words they're using here.
Claiming that Russian troops have placed, quote, objects resembling explosives on the roofs of buildings at the site. No evidence to suggest that, but okay.
Yeah, okay. So he's just saying. He's just saying the words that they found explosives.
No.
Kind of like
no, not explosives. Objects
okay.
resembling explosives.
Resembling explosives. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is all great.
Citing Ukrainian intelligence, Zelenskiy said the objects had been positioned on the roof of several power units of the power plant that is currently held by Russia. Earlier on Tuesday, Zelenskiy briefed the French president, Emmanuel Macron, on Russia's dangerous provocations at the plant in southeastern Ukraine. He said he and Macron had, quote, agreed keep the situation under maximum control together with the IAEA, the UN's nuclear watchdog. On Wednesday, the IAEA said its experts based at the plant said they had not observed any indications of mines or explosives at the plant, but more access was needed to be sure. Quote, the IAEA experts have requested additional access that is necessary to confirm the absence of mines or explosives. I don't know if they're going to roll in the robots or if they got people on there. They got to get the robots in there, right? They're not going to have actual live people test that out.
Confirm the absence is a weird way of doing that.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, quote, in particular, access to the rooftops of reactor units 3 and 4 is essential, as well as access to parts of the turbine halls and some parts of the cooling system at the plant. I think this is a psyop. I think they are the ones that are going to plant the explosives.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I mean, this calls back to what we've seen several times in the past year and a half, which is the American government not only coming out and sort of predicting false flags, but actually using the words false flag. I mean, false flag was a conspiracy theorist term for decades, and then suddenly last year, Biden is up at the podium talking about potential false flags by Russia. Russia's going to blow up their own pipeline. Keep an eye out. Boom, it happens. Then they did the same thing with the dam that exploded. Oh, we think that Russia's going to blow up the dam. Keep an eye out for Russia to... Boom, it happens. And in both cases, the very suspicious circumstances and motives, the motive of Russia to blow up these things doesn't make a lot of sense. It's usually the fact is that the Russians are not benefited by these certain saboteurs. But I think especially after the Nord Stream incident, where Biden said he was going to blow it up and then said, oh, it's going to be a Russian, blame it on the Russians. The Russians are doing a false flag. What's a false flag? Well, let me tell you, America. And then it happens. And then lo and behold, turns out it was our guys. Our guys blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. If I were anywhere near this nuclear power plant, I would just be taking the hint and hitting the road. There is not a whole lot of luck involved in whether or not this is going to actually happen.
There's no ambiguity. I would say 5 years ago, you can still kind of fool the public. At this point, most people paying attention are saying, oh, you guys are saying Russia's going to blow it up, means you guys are going to blow it up, right?
Yeah,
right. And so it's interesting if you go through the article here. We don't have to read the whole thing, but there are a couple parts here to highlight, and then just a couple more things here. But let's see. Renat Karcha, an advisor to the head of Rosenergoatom, which operates Russia's nuclear network, said Ukraine planned to drop ammunition laced with nuclear waste transported from another of the country's 5 nuclear stations on the plant. Quote, under cover of darkness overnight on 5th July, the Ukrainian military will try to attack the Zaporizhzhia station using long-range precision equipment and kamikaze attack drones, end quote. Russian news agencies quoted Karcha as telling Russian television. He offered no evidence in support of the allegation. Keep that in mind too, which is funny. A statement issued by the Ukrainian armed forces on Tuesday quoted, quote, operational data as saying that, quote, explosive devices had been placed on the roof of the station's 3rd and 4th reactors, and an attack was possible, quote, in the near future. Quote, if detonated, they would not damage the reactors, but would create an image of shelling from the Ukrainian side, the statement on Telegram said. It said the Ukrainian army stood, quote, ready to act under any circumstance. In his nightly video message, Zelenskiy said Russia was planning to, quote, simulate an attack on the plant. But in any case, this is a continued quote, but in any case...
Simulate. I wonder if he meant to say that.
I don't know. He must, I mean, yeah.
Or if it's the truth sort of just kind of trying to come out, you know.
I like this because he talks about simulate an attack, quote, but in any case, the world sees and cannot fail to see that the only source of danger to the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is Russia and no one else. And that tells me that line, big sign that says it's us or the Americans or some intelligent Western intelligence ops. And, you know, you go on with the article and you just find out that anybody who questions this Zelensky narrative is you're siding with the Russians. And again, like you mentioned, this has been the same tactic. There's nothing new in terms of who's involved, who they're blaming, and whatnot. So I think you're right. I think we're going to see, and I said it right from the get-go, the moment Zelensky started mentioning this nuclear plant, like, I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago, I was on Twitter saying that this is false flag. They're getting ready to blow this thing up, you know, and sure enough, a few weeks goes by and we have the article here from The Guardian. Oh, if you believe that Western intelligence by proxy or Ukrainians themselves blew up the nuclear plant, you must be a Russian propagandist. And that's the setup. They're setting it up, ready to go. It's a great way to not just hijack, but really use the popular understanding of false flags that's becoming more disseminated. And maybe this has to do with hey, open up to your conspiracy theorist friends narrative that we saw a few episodes ago, how they're trying to make it mainstream, because it is a topic that gets brought up in conspiracy conversations fairly early. If you're into conspiracy talk, I mean, when I first got in to conspiracy minded thinking, it was the talk about the Gulf of Tonkin, a false flag. So nothing happened actually, but
over and over.
It just happens in history. So nothing new under the sun, same tactics. See it from a mile away. I think it's pretty crazy that they just keep doing it. It's almost like they can't help themselves. They have a script, they got to follow the script because we don't want people to know the real script because then we won't be able to do it. We won't be able to do the script. So
Zaporizhzhia is, of course, trending on Twitter here. Lots of talk going on about
World War III trending. Around. Yeah.
Right. And, there was about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, when this nuclear power plant became a topic of conversation again, back when we first started getting worried about it. It was in the context of, a radiation accident and then the wind carrying the radioactive material, with whatever direction the wind was going in. On one hand, it could blow it back onto Russia. On the other hand, it could blow it across Ukraine towards Poland, which would be a NATO, issue. That would be an Article 4. What is it? Article 4, Article 5 actionable event, meaning NATO could take action on that. And it really is this. They were talking about it like, Putin's just waiting for the wind to turn so that the wind blows it away from his country. Like the master strategist, crazy Putin man, waiting for the wind to help him carry out his dastardly plans. Right. But yeah, this is, and of course, they're taking the opportunity to get all the hype about World War III, nuclear war stuff again, because this would be a nuclear event, and they all love rambling on about how easily how Putin's just itching for a reason to use a tactical nuke in Ukraine, and apparently, if something happened to this nuclear power plant, blew the radiation towards Russia, then Putin would feel it necessary to use a tactical nuke in Ukraine, and boom, there we go. We got the nuclear war we've all been waiting for, Gons.
Yeah. I don't know if they're going to fully go with the war side of it, but I do think they're going to blow up this plant. And
something.
Yeah. And by the way, part of what makes it so obvious, at least to people like us, is that there's already plans in the works to build back Ukraine.
Rebuild it.
it. So you need a pretty bad... You need to tear it down. Can't really... And I've heard people say like, what about the nuclear fallout? You're not going to be able to rebuild... First of all, it even says in the article here from The Guardian that it would blow up some of the infrastructure. It won't necessarily have like a nuclear... It would be self-contained.
It's not a nuclear explosion.
Right.
It's leaked radioactive material.
Stuff. Right.
Kind of like Fukushima,
right?
More like Fukushima than Chernobyl,
right? So you can rebuild fairly quickly. So anyway, Basil, I moved a couple things around just to make it make more sense. And I have a theory to present. Good. And so the company that is rebuilding Ukraine is BlackRock.
BlackRock is a financial giant. It's the largest investor on planet Earth.
And they recently got into some of the crypto game here.
Is this a crypto? Crypto? Do I look like I know what a crypto is?
Now, if you don't know, BlackRock is one of the biggest asset managers in the world. They manage, I've seen 20 trillion worldwide. I think it's like 9 or 10 trillion domestically. And in terms of assets they hold, and they're very powerful group. Manage. That's the word.
Manage.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to do it this way. Back in 2017, CNBC reported Headline here: BlackRock CEO Larry Fink calls Bitcoin an index of money laundering. An index of money laundering. An index of money laundering.
Bitcoin go to moon.
Let's hear what he said today. This is today from Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock.
And also, I do believe the role of crypto is it's digitizing gold in many ways. Instead of investing in gold as a hedge against inflation, a hedge against the onerous problems of any one country, or the devaluation of your currency, whatever country you're in. Let's be clear. Bitcoin is an international asset. It's not based on any one currency. And so it can represent an asset that people can play as an alternative. I would call the foundation of BlackRock is about hope. You invest for retirement because you believe tomorrow is better than today.
All right, a couple things to mention here. Let's just start at the end there.
BlackRock is about hope.
BlackRock is about hope, man. I'm so glad Larry Fink believes that his company, that controls and influences so much.
He was the same guy that came out and said that millennials don't want to own property, so we're just helping them not own property. We're helping them rent.
What was the other link? Other Larry Fink recently? He said something about behavior, to control their behavior or something like that.
Oh, I don't remember.
You must have missed that one. It was a few episodes ago.
For that one, yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, he's peddling hope. Great, thank you. But he also said that Bitcoin is an international asset. The CEO of BlackRock just said that Bitcoin is an international asset, which, if you follow crypto, is a pretty big deal because they've been avoiding, a lot of these institutions and big name people have been avoiding Bitcoin and saying, that it's nonsense or that it's a index of money laundering, which, by the way, if it is an index of money laundering, BlackRock finally, thinking, hey, now it's good enough. It's a good enough index of money laundering for us to come in and, take over the space. But this actually, the reason why I brought up BlackRock here right after the Ukraine story is because I am wondering if part of the teardown of the nuclear plant it technically belongs to Russia, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
The plant is in Ukraine.
It's in Ukraine, I know, but it's like supposed to be operated by Russia. Is that the?
Well, I think the
here?
Russians took it during the invasion. They occupied it, occupadoed. And I'm trying to figure out right now if it's still under Russian control or if it's under Ukrainian control. Seeing some random little reports here and there that there was a fire that broke out on the top. But that was like 10 hours ago, so I think that might not be accurate. Last I heard, it was under Russian control, and that's why they think that the Russians are gonna, blow it up and do the whole thing. So, like, Ukraine isn't able to protect it right now. Indeed, perhaps they don't want to protect it, and they want to sneak in and do some, maybe just drop a little, get one of those drones to go over there, drop a little present on the roof or something.
So, the reason why I bring it up is because there's a quiet movement happening in the U.S. and around the world. At least, I don't know. It's quiet for people that are just kind of out there looking at this kind of stuff, but it's this idea of turning these nuclear power plants that have traditionally existed into Bitcoin, or at least integrating some kind of Bitcoin mining process into them. There's a big one that's happening in Pennsylvania already. I believe it is TeraWulf is the name of the company. And I know about TeraWulf because they were involved in the Celsius bankruptcy Chapter 11 thing. They were involved as maybe a company to take over, which they ended up not being the company to take over. But anyway, they're involved in nuclear energy powered data centers that can do Bitcoin mining in Susquehanna, Pennsylvania. Basil disappeared.
Yep, sorry, keep going.
So that's kind of my line of thinking is if BlackRock's getting involved, they're clearly getting involved with Bitcoin as some kind of asset, internationally accepted asset. And they would be the ones to help sort of facilitate or fund anyway, in some way, the idea of tearing down or, having a nuclear power plant explosion. Decommissioning, sure. Because they're the ones that are going to come in and rebuild it. And, there's a great incentive for the destruction of this power plant. Not just in the sense of, hey, we're rebuilding, but also in the sense of, hey, we're going to turn it into a Bitcoin miner. And look, we got all the Bitcoin now. And
that's an interesting connection.
Yeah.
Just to confirm, on March 4th, the power plant came under the control of the Russian military.
Okay. Well,
so it is currently under Russian control, it seems.
All right. Well, there you go.
Which makes it even more of a threat because, BlackRock needs a reason to decommission that nuclear power plant.
That was probably part of the deal, and then the Ukrainians couldn't hold their ground, and now they got a whole different set of problems. They got to fool the public into thinking Russia is going to blow it up, and then once they do, or once they, as in either the Ukrainians or
whoever does,
Western Intel Ops or whoever, then hey, there you go, boom, Russia, you did violent again.
Yeah,
and you bad.
It looks like there's some webcams that you can sit stare.
Yeah,
sit and stare at the nuclear power plant and wait for something exciting to happen. So that's fun.
That's good. Yeah, everyone will be watching, and that's the other thing too. These things, as they become more prevalent, the ideas of it'll just be very interesting how divisive the world will become, where truly half the people believe the narrative that is projected, and the other half are like, "How do you not see the lie?" But
honestly, it's so crazy because if you really get down to it, I couldn't even guarantee to you that this nuclear power plant even exists. I mean, I can read about it.
I mean, you're starting to dive into epistemological origins, and that's
I'm just saying full on wag the dog style. Like the whole thing could be a sort of media creation. I mean, of course, there are some that think the entire war is some sort of theatrical performance rather than, real geopolitical
performative
combat.
Protests, baby.
Yeah.
Let's move on here. We got some alien stuff.
We're made by the aliens. You don't know what you're looking at.
What's driving that thing? It's not a space alien.
Aliens. It's unidentified.
And AI.
Artificial intelligence.
Because it's a topic that I talked about a lot. Recently brought up how mainstream people are sort of hijacking the idea. And it's becoming more, I don't know, ridiculous. This is from wyonnews.com. And it's a series of photos, but the headline here is "Say Cheese, AI imagines aliens visiting Earth." And it's literally just a bunch of selfies in different locations. First one here: "All of us at some point in our lives have believed that aliens will visit us on Earth one day. If that ever happens, this is what it will look like." And it's got a frog alien looking guy.
Yeah, it's a really interesting style that was, it's photorealistic, but it looks like a bad 80s movie prosthetic.
I will tell you exactly.
Rubber alien.
It looks exactly like Gorn from Star Trek. If you don't know Gorn, it's the old Star Trek when William Shatner is out on desert rocks and they wrestle and stuff. It's just a ridiculous scene.
Yeah, the famous scene.
Famous one, yeah.
Yeah, he's he's picking up giant rocks and throwing it at him.
Yeah, so
the foam rocks.
So I think the AI aliens are just a bunch of people in really bad lizard suits or something.
They've gone backwards. When in the 70s or whatever, they had their sort of prosthetic looking aliens, and then we got AI that could create hyper real super detailed CGI aliens, but they're just giving up. They're going back to the old ways, guys.
I almost feel like they're just getting lazy. they're like, the people are not that smart. I mean, we can just wear this suit here. I mean, we made a bunch of them in the 70s. We got different iterations. Let's just go with it. And, the alien invasion will happen. The only difference will be they'll have the anti-gravity craft. That'll be the deception, making them think that they're actually aliens or something. There's one in here where...
No, okay.
Oh, they have an image in here of Mark Zuckerberg, kind of AI version of Mark Zuckerberg. And the alien looks like a very scary gecko man type thing. And it says, this AI generated image shows an alien clicking a picture with billionaire Mark Zuckerberg. Because of course, Mark Zuckerberg is not human.
The message here,
ones.
The interesting message that I receive from this list of AI photos is that they're just like us. They're here, they're on vacation. They want to see the sights. They're taking selfies just like you take selfies. Similar to our obsession with the FLIPPY update and the introduction of robots into the human family, the personhood family at least. There's similar things going on with the aliens. Like, hey, there's been a lot of talk about aliens. The government leaks have shown that we have alien species in captivity, blah, blah, blah. But don't worry, they might be kind of spooky looking, but don't be racist. They're just like you and I. Okay?
Didn't you watch Ender's Game? Didn't you have sympathy for the big bug alien?
Yeah, just let them into your heart and welcome your new neighbors.
There's one in particular here where it says, the above picture shows an alien wearing a hoodie and exploring the pyramids of Egypt. And this particular alien, it still does look like a lizard humanoid or lizard face humanoid guy, but his skin is all dark and he's wearing a hoodie, so he looks dangerous.
Very spooky.
Yeah. And he's at the pyramids. What is he doing there? Is he trying to get back to his craft or something?
There are captions on a lot of these images. One of them here, imagining it's of a robot standing in front of like a Russian looking palace type of thing. There's imagining the situation to be true. An AI artist named The AI Dreams on Instagram posted several images of aliens clicking selfies while exploring different travel aspects of human life. They're actually calling this guy an AI artist, which kind of delves into another sort of cultural tension with the AI art stuff, which is, okay, can a human actually be an AI artist, or are you just a prompt engineer? Well, in this case, they're calling him an artist, Gons.
Well, if these aliens show up and they're giving everybody free energy, it might be worthwhile of a deception.
Build back better.
We will build Babylon better. This time, a new world order.
We're back to the Guardian here real quick. And the headline
this will be a great a boon for the Build Back Better Green New Deal future of humanity.
If it can be monetized. Otherwise, it's got to be on a subscription model for the device. We'll get into it. It says here, the headline, it was an accident. The scientists who have turned humid air into renewable power. Oh, what?
That's convenient. Yeah.
In the early 20th century, Serbian inventor Nikola Tesla dreamed of pulling limitless free energy or free electricity from the air around us. Ever ambitious, Tesla was thinking on a vast scale, effectively looking at the Earth and upper atmospheres as two ends of an enormous battery. Needless to say, his dreams were never realized because the U.S. government took over all of his documents. But the promise of air-derived electricity, hygro electricity, is now capturing researchers' imagination again. The difference, they're not thinking big, but very, very small. Just very small.
For those who just need a clarification, just because audio can be that way, hygro, Hygro, hygro electricity.
Yes.
As opposed to hydro.
Yeah. Okay, so they talk about this team here from UMass who published a paper back in 2018. They started researching this idea of creating some kind of electrical current from just humidity in the air. And they quote the professor Jun Yao of the study's lead. Quote, to be frank, it was an accident. We were actually interested in making a simple sensor for humidity in the air, but for whatever reason, the student who was working on that forgot to plug in the power. This is like a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh yeah, it's working, but it's not even plugged in. What's going on? You know? So UMass Amherst team was surprised to find that the device, which comprised of an array of microscopic tubes or nanowires, was producing an electrical signal regardless. Each nanowire was less than 1/1000th of a diameter of a human hair, wide enough that an airborne water molecule could enter, but so narrow it would bump around inside the tube. Each bump, the team realized, lent the material a small charge, and as the frequency of the bumps increased, one end of the tube became differently charged from the other. Quote, so it's like a battery, says Yao. You have a positive pole and a negative pole, and when you connect them, the charge is going to flow. And they talk about the nanopores a little bit, but let's find out what the application is here. So what would it take to power the rest of the screen, or indeed a whole house? Because they talk about, just the screen there. Quote, the beauty is that the air is everywhere, says Yao. Quote, even though a thin sheet of the device gives out a very tiny amount of electricity or power, in principle, we can stack multiple layers in vertical space to increase power. And then they talk about a Professor Svetlana Lyubuchuk and her twin sons who've been working on this project called the Catcher Project, doing exactly that. And it says here, in fact, trying to prove the worth of an early proof of concept at conferences had them literally red in the face. They talk about how nobody believed them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got some funding. According to the Lyubuchuks, one of these devices can generate a relatively modest 1.5 volts and 10 milliamps. However, 20,000 of them stacked into a washing machine-sized cube, they say, could generate 10 kilowatt hours of power a day, roughly the consumption of an average UK household. You know better than I do, Basil. 10 kilowatt hours? That's a decent amount.
Yeah, kilowatt hours, it gets kind of complicated in the numbers. But yeah, it's basically, that would do the job. You can run a house on 10 kilowatt hours.
Even more impressive, they plan to have a prototype ready for demonstration in 2024. The device, the device that can generate usable electricity from thin and somewhat muggy air may sound too good to be true, but Peter Dobson, emeritus professor of engineering science at Oxford University, has been following both the UMass Amherst and Catcher teams' research, and he's optimistic. Quote, when I first heard about it, I thought, oh yes, another one of those. But no, it's got legs. This one has, says Dobson. If you can engineer and scale it and avoid the thing getting contaminated by atmospheric microbes, it should work. He goes on to suggest that preventing microbial contamination is more, and quote, exciting engineering challenge than a terminal flaw, but there are far greater problems to overcome before this technology is powering our homes. And it goes on. There's a lot more here, but you get the gist of it. There's looks like Tesla's science anyway was proven true, which means it's always been true, which means who has harnessed this type of power before?
Perhaps
ever.
Trump's uncle.
Yeah, maybe Trump's uncle.
20 chests full of Tesla's writings that never got brought back to the family. Dangerous place to be.
Mm-hmm.
Being a scientist who's discovered free energy. Usually scientists who claim to have discovered free energy get a little knock on the door and meet some sort of unfortunate end. If I were these guys, I'd probably stay away from hot tubs and small aircraft and keep the toaster away from the bathtub, that kind of thing, because that would be unfortunate. I don't know where I'm going to get some nanotubes, some carbon nanotubes, but I'd give this thing a whack.
Well,
hold on. I'm just going to do a quick Google search for carbon nanotubes for sale. Do you think that's going to put me on some sort of list?
Yes. 100%.
Oh, jeez.
It's not exactly the science that I'm worried about or the scientists. It's whoever is able to, the scientists will be in danger, but only after they meet agents of, I don't know, companies like BlackRock or something, I don't know, Vanguard, who want to capitalize on this technology and scale it.
That's
But
how we're gonna rebuild Ukraine.
That would be a thing, wouldn't it? After all this, Zelenskiy shows up in a flying UFO and says, "We did this. We have free energy." And
BlackRock is going to put a nice
Bitcoin
nanotube box in front of every Ukrainian household. They'll become sort of a technocratic utopia society to show the benefits of letting, multi-trillion-dollar hedge funds or whatever take control of society. Look, it's made the world a better place.
They sell hope, Basil.
Right. BlackRock is about hope. That's why
the idea
assassinated these scientists and stole their free energy machine.
And then BlackRock will take the credit too. Larry Fink will be like, "Look what we did. We brought a better tomorrow by giving you free energy. How about that?"
It's the American way, baby.
It is the American way. We are living in the age of technocratic. What's the word I'm looking for? It means takeover, but kind of in like a racist way.
What's the I know it's culture appropriation.
Technological colonialism. How about that?
Yeah, there you go.
Where it's kind of like they're taking the people that are actually there first with the technology, and you just run over them and kill them or take them out, or if you don't,
little heart attack gun.
A heart attack gun. Yeah, you never know. Well, we'll keep an eye on all this technology. And Basil, you watch your back over there if you're ordering nanotubes on the internet. You might want to use a VPN or something.
I got distracted. Now I'm reading about cocaine in the White House again. Man, cocaine in the White House. Who knew? Who knew besides every single person?
It's got to be a plant. Somebody had to have planted that.
It does have that feel, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And
because they knew that they would connect it to Hunter, and he was there in the whole deal. So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the Hunter connections are hilarious. I mean, there's not quite any hard evidence to say that it is Hunter's, but it was just a great opportunity for everybody to put that in their headline for the past 3 days or whatever.
That's why I think it's all made up. Well, not made up necessarily, but planted to create a reaction. But why
doesn't Hunter Biden just get some nanotubes, leave it in the White House library, and then people can start thinking he's some sort of technological genius instead of just some sort of degenerate. So many options, Hunter. You had so much potential.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, let's go ahead and thank some more producers.
Real quick.
Please leave a message after the tone.
At the tone, please record your message.
Leave a message. Beep.
Message.
Go to canarycrynewstalk.com. Look for a green tab on the right side or the bottom. It'll give you a little pop-up window that says send a voice message to Basil and Gons. And there's a big orange button that says start recording. Hit that button, have your microphone ready, and you can send us a up to 90-second audio message. We've had several prayers sent in recently, which has been fantastic. We've been playing that at the top of the show. But also, if you have a message to us or to the Canarium out there, you can do that here as well. So there you go. This is an option. We don't have any speak pipes to play other than, again, they've all been prayers recently, which is great.
Wonderful.
But just letting everybody know that's how you do it.
Okie dokie. Love it. Well, we got a few more financial producers to thank for this episode. We had some people come in during the episode, which is also wonderful.
All right.
Always welcomed.
Oh, by the way,
you ready to thank some?
Yeah, and if you're a producer of this episode, this is a monumental moment. Episode 642, at least on video. The producers who are in prior to us going live,
yes,
you'll see your name scrolling at the bottom of the screen.
That's right. So we all know who to thank.
There you go.
Here's a question. We actually had a couple executive producers come in, and I want to make sure we give them the credit they deserve. Should we read them in for this episode or save them for another episode?
Let's read them in.
Let's read them in.
I'll add them. The executive producers.
Okay, sounds good. Well, he had some more executive producers come in. Thank you so much, guys. This means a ton. And we'll thank them right now, starting with executive producer Rochelle.
Rochelle.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Rochelle.
Rochelle's in the house, came in with $100.33 and says, hello, Canarians. I can't help but read this. In my mind, I'm hearing Rochelle's voice. Hello, Canarians. Thank you to all the producers and producers. I'm in the chat today and taking requests for next Speak Pipe. Any favorite Bible verses? There you go, folks. Put in your Bible verses now into the chat. And Rochelle will start leaving some of her patentedly wonderful Speak Pipes. Thank you very much, executive producer Rochelle.
Where'd you find this?
Thank you, Rochelle.
Indeed. And we also had executive producer Dustin H. come in as well.
Dustin H. All
yeah.
right.
Yeah. This is wonderful. The timing is perfect on these things. Yeah. That's how God works. Dustin H. comes in with 101.33.
Oh, by the way, sorry, Rochelle, you are Illuminatus.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And then
there we go.
So is
yes.
Dustin
H.
Illuminatus.
There you go.
After all this time, I'm happy to be able to finally pay it back. You have helped me keep it together these last few years. Speaking truth to power isn't for the faint of heart. Stay strong in Jesus. Thank you very much, executive producer Dustin H.
Thank you, Dustin H.
Where'd you find this?
You know what? There is also a chance that is a executive producer streak for Dustin H.
Ooh.
Executive streak.
Is that 2?
That's right. I think that's 2 in a row. Thank you very much, Dustin.
Thank you, Dustin.
Okay, we got a few people here. Producers came in supporting the show. Let's thank them now, starting with producer Harm V.
Harm V.
Harm V came in for 33.33. And, Illuminatus. And a note here that says, these are challenging times. Preserve sanity. Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, producer Harm.
Thank you.
Next up, we've got producers M and Bobby. M and Bobby are back for 33.33.
M and Bobby?
M and Bobby.
Oh, M and Bobby.
Yeah, E-M and Bobby came in for 33.33. They're Illuminatus.
Oh, they are Illuminatus.
Illuminatus.
A little note here says, hey, brothers, we were blessed recently, so blessed people. Especially Jesus people. Keep up the good kingdom work, M and Bobby.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, producer M and Bobby. Glad to see you guys on the list here. Next up, we got producer Joy T.
Joy T. Oh, we got Harm, like harmony, and we have Joy.
Yes. Thank you very much, producer Joy T. Nice round number, no note. Appreciate the support.
Thank you.
We have Sir Alex, Protocol V2, Night of the Breen, Protocol, Pocket Full of Sevens, 191 episodes in a row.
191.
Almost to 200. Very good. Thank you, Sir Alex Protocol.
Thank you.
Last but not least, we have producer Aaron M. Aaron M coming in with a pocket full of sevens. No, thank you very much for that. And that concludes our list of financial producers who came in above $7.77, which entitles them to have a note read on the show. We've got a few people under that amount. We will list them now, starting with Sir Casey the Shield Knight, 318 episodes in a row.
Woo.
Veronica D, 280 episodes in a row.
Woo.
Sir Scott Knight of Truth, 307 episodes in a row.
Woo.
Dame Gale, Canary Whisperer, and Lady of X's and O's, 280 in a row. And, of course, Sir Moore of Night of the Burning Chariots, 249 in a row.
Oh, yeah, streakalicious.
Women rule.
Thank you very much, financial producers. It really lets us get off our heels for a second and take a breath when we have a decent day like this, and we really appreciate it. And everybody out there, if it's been a while since you've produced the show, now is a wonderful time to get involved, show your appreciation, put value back in. It's the only way that it works. And remember, we have a $120 charge cost per episode just for childcare. So we are at the very least, my goodness, at the very least, just trying to cover the childcare for each episode because, well, we can't do the show without it. So thank you very much to everybody who contributed to that. I think we have some artists who sent stuff in, huh?
Yeah, we're going to start with some audio production.
Audio production.
We're going to kick it off with Jonathan F.
Jonathan F.
He says, hello, guys. Apparently, Hunter Biden was getting ready for the 4th of July celebration and left some stuff laying around.
Mm-hmm.
And we have this little jingle from Jonathan F.
A mysterious white powder was discovered in the West Wing on Sunday, prompting a hazardous materials call to the fire department. I wish I was making this up, but it's true. Newsmax can confirm the powder is presumed by the fire department to be cocaine.
What? Hey, guy was having fun.
Did you ever listen to Eric Clapton growing up, Baz? Were you ever Eric Clapton?
No.
Guy?
No. Mm-mm.
So do you know the song Cocaine?
Yeah.
I was like
it's the one that goes cocaine.
Yeah, well, I got my guitar. It's not, my guitar's not plugged in, but yeah. So I was like a little 12-year-old kid playing the riff, ba-na-na-na-na-na, and then it's all right. And I was singing, 12 years old. It's all right. It's all right.
Yes.
Cocaine, just real edgy.
I had a similar one. My dad was a big Deadhead, Grateful Dead guy.
There it is.
And there was a driving that train high on cocaine. And I was like 12 years old, singing that song around the house.
I'm glad that you and I both had musical cocaine moments as a young, impressionable child.
It was the time, yes. The boomers and their cocaine songs are quite an impact on the millennial generation. Thank you very much, boomers.
Thank you, Jonathan F. We also got something from Waldo. Waldo sent in, Basil gets the coyotes.
Ooh.
I think he combined the snake story and the coyote story, and it just the hole puncher. That's a loud hole puncher, man. That thing really sounds like it punches some good old holes.
Usually, you just have the 22 out when I'm out looking for coyotes that need holes in them. Actually, the puppies alerted me to their first coyote a couple nights ago. Ooh. So the coyote alarm system is working. They are safe. They are not the puppies are not loose in the wild during the nighttime, but they are, they got their little spot and started going absolutely berserk the other night. And I had also put up some safety motion detection lights, solar powered motion detection lights. And boom, they all popped on, and I saw a little rascal sneaking through. He got away before I could do anything about it, but the coyote alarm system officially is up and running, folks. It works.
All right. Good stuff.
Now I just need to hang up like a sniper perch or something and just sit up there all night, wait for them to come by.
Yeah. There you go. Thank you very much to Waldo. We also, Jared F. had sent something in last episode, and I think he officially sent in a track that he made. He said it's an original. We'll play a few seconds here, and then we'll play the whole track at the end of the show. Here's what it sounds like.
Okay, thank you very much. Who is it? There's a Jared. Yeah,
Jared F. Yeah,
Jared F. Okay, cool.
It's kind of got like a Muse vibe, in my opinion.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Muse vibe.
I see what you. Yeah. Thank you very much, Jared F. We'll play it at the end of the show here.
Let's move on to some art.
One art, please.
We have one art today, and it is from Sir Dove, Bidenocalypse.
One-art piece from Dove.
And this is a fantastic piece. Once again, he says, peace, like the peace. For today's artwork, I did a possible supply drop sticker design or a possible first piece to a Canary Cry conspiracy corkboard kit. Hope you guys like it. Keep doing what you do, and I'll keep praying for you, Dove. And oh my gosh, it's so cool. And I actually, this is, I don't know, it might be God's timing. God is showing us about the red tape thing because I'm as I am putting together the office here, I'm trying to order a few things instead of like a whiteboard or like a thing. I was going to get one of these. They're not exactly cork boards, but they're kind of like cork boards. You can get little pins to pin things up, and I was going to order red pins, and I was going to order some red string as well to make it official.
I love Dove's idea of Canary Cry corkboard kit. That might be an idea for a supply drop. If any of the helpers, maybe Clank, if you could remind me of that later. Yeah, do a Canary Cry red Gonzo's. Oh, back to the art real quick. This is for Gonzo's Yarn Co. This is a classic Canary Cry gaff where Gonz tries to explain something and tries to think of the words red yarn, and so it's only makes nothing but sense that Gonz's Yarn Co. is officially immortalized in a sticker or indeed in a supply drop, canarycrysupply.com. On the left-hand side, we got googly-eyed Canary Basil with a cat on his head, a cat around his neck. We've got Monty 33. It's a deep cut there for some Canary Cry lore folks. Jumping out in front of him, and on the right-hand side, we got Old Gonz from Gonzo Yarn Co. giving a thumbs up, wearing his Gonzo Yarn Co. Shirt.
Oh yeah,
a big ball of red yarn under his arm there. We've got some advertisements here. 33 different varieties of red yarn.
By the way, very clever. There's a different shade of red for the word different than the word red. Just to show that there's different varieties of red.
The true conspiracy theorist does not just use one color of red yarn. You've got to have different shades.
Basil Dento Bean in the chat says he used to work at a yarn company.
Oh, used to.
Yeah, used to. Can we break back into the factory and steal just the red yarn?
You know where the security cameras are, and when they leave the doors unlocked.
All the red yarn.
Okay, I'm on it. Thank you, Dento, for that. Go ahead, get in contact. We'll get some yarn for the supply droppers. Thank you very much, Sir Dove. Excellently done.
Yep, there you go. We also, that's it for the art. We have a microfiction.
Microfiction.
It's from Stefan S. Do you think he's maybe ready for a jingle for Stefan S? Unless we got one.
I thought we had one.
I was going to say, if we did have one, I completely forgot about it. So if you did make one, or Stefan S, let us know if someone did make one, and we'll look for it. But
we'll do a little searchy poo. We'll see if we can find it.
We have this.
Steven!
But it's more of a generic
Steven. Not quite a Stefan.
Not quite Stefan.
The age-old question.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so here is his microfiction.
Nigel, what is the status of the Southern White Supremacist Front Group for cyber attacks? Asks M. Everything is on schedule, sir. However, they don't like their name, he reports. Really? What is it? Reluctantly, Nigel replies. The Dukes of Hackers.
That's a good one. Dukes of Hackers.
Yeah, this looks like it's in regards to a Forbes story about the cyber apocalypse in 2023.
Yep. I think we covered this one. Pretty sure we did. I recognize the artwork and stuff. Yeah. 2025 is expected that cybercrime will be cost around $10.5 trillion.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, about a third of the national debt. Well, there you go. Thank you very much, Stefan S.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Thank you to all of our producers. Now, if you're a talented person or an aspiring talented person, create something for the show and go to canarycry.art. Doesn't matter what it is, but if you go to canarycry.art, you can upload it to the show for us. We can keep track of it there. That is the best way to submit that art. If you have a story you'd like us to take a look at or an article you'd like considered for the show, go ahead and go to canarycry.report, where we will take a look at it and decide whether the world needs to know about it. Let's see what else. That's it. Canarycry.art, canarycry.support. Go get involved, people. Send us your stuff. All right.
So a new discovery in Antarctica.
Clearly in the bottom of our planet. Advanced Antarctica.
Climate crisis. Penguins.
We're back, folks. The Canary Cry's obsession with Antarctica is only now being met by a similar obsession with the mainstream media. We have been tracking the reporting on Antarctica and its positioning by the elites as some sort of utopia for rich white liberals. Since then, we've chronicled the many dramatic vacations that have been taken to Antarctica and its rise to fame as the most sought-after tourism destination in the world, simultaneously, of course, trying to protect it from the evils of human intervention. It's been a big deal, but there's a fly in the ointment, Gons, because the Atlantic, yes, that Atlantic, has a new headline here that I find a little bit concerning for our fellow Canarians in the Antarctica business. The headline is, "The last place on Earth any tourist should go." Subheadline.
Any tourist ever?
Any tourist. The last place any tourist should go. Subheadline, "Take Antarctica off your travel bucket list." Oh, the Atlantic. You just have to be such a contrarian, don't you?
They just don't want more people. The more people go, the more people see the ice wall. We know what this is about.
They'll
FE,
figure out
baby.
that
FE for life.
The Earth is flat and Antarctica is a interdimensional ice wall that keeps humans oppressed in our current realm of existence. I get it. Yep. Let's see here. But I think it's a little ironic that it says it's the last place on Earth any tourist should go, because usually, as far as travel bucket lists go, it usually is the last place that people go.
That's what a bucket list is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's everywhere in the world is easier to go to than Antarctica. So yeah, if it's on the bucket list, it's usually the last place. But it goes like this. On the southernmost continent, you can see enormous stretches of wind-sculpted ice that seem carved from marble, and others that are smooth and green as emerald. You can see icebergs, whales, emperor penguins. Visitors have described the place as otherworldly, magical, and majestic.
Disneyland?
The light, John Krakauer said, is so ravishing you get drugged by it.
Oh, there it is.
There you go. There's your Snow White house. Hunter Biden loves Antarctica. Travelers are drawn to Antarctica for what they can find there, the wildlife, the scenery, the sense of adventure, and for what they can't. Cars, buildings, cell towers. They talk about the overwhelming silence. The Norwegian explorer Erling Kage called it the quietest place I have ever been. All of these attractions are getting harder to find in the rest of the world. They're disappearing in Antarctica, too. The continent is melting.
I'm melting.
The continent is melting. So we have another example of the, first of all, Antarctica is a land mass. Yeah, okay, there is land. It's land with ice on it.
Allegedly.
The continent is gonna be fine. Also, as to the claim that it's melting, we know that exactly the opposite is happening. The Atlantic, they are continuing this propaganda that Antarctica is disappearing and melting every year, when in fact last year was the highest ice on record. So the Atlantic is purely taking some money from someone to keep people away from Antarctica.
And I believe it's also the way they described it was, yes, there are parts of Antarctic ice that's melting or breaking off or whatever, but there are other parts that are forming newer ice. And so to just report on the fact that it's melting is sort of disingenuous, because there's a whole nother part of it that's becoming colder. So, or more ice
and
or whatever.
That's how ice works. Yes. It freezes, and then it melts. It freezes, then it melts.
Thanks, Chris SHILLZILLA.
How the seasons work. Whole chunks are prematurely tumbling into the ocean prematurely. So apparently they have a set life cycle for these chunks of ice that are acceptable to the Atlantic.
They were too young.
Yeah, too young to fall. And more people than ever are in Antarctica because tourism is on a tear. 4 decades ago, the continent saw only a few hundred visitors each summer. More than 100,000 people traveled there this past season. Yes.
Yeah, 4 decades ago, there's less people, less ways to travel. There's no internet. Like, yeah, of course.
4 decades ago, getting on a plane was taking
people were still wearing suits on planes, weren't they? In '83,
planes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
the majority arriving on. You could still smoke on a plane 40 years ago. In the context of a land this size, that number may not sound like a lot. It's roughly the capacity of Michigan Stadium, or about the attendance of the CES Tech Conference back in January. But it's also a record. This record stuff, this is a great propagandistic term. One of the stories didn't make it to the show today, but I'm sure you saw it all over the internet, people, was 4th of July was the hottest day
ever
in world record history. The world has never been as hot as it was yesterday.
Global warming.
I blame it on the drones, the drone shows. So yes, some more record talk. It's also a record and 40% jump over 2019 to 2020. The season before the coronavirus pandemic brought Antarctic travel to a near standstill. And although scientists who visit the continent to study its life and demise have a clear place here.
So morbid, man.
For lowly Antarctic scientists, it's been a while since I've got to bring attention to the truly pitiful second class of Antarctic scientists and the sort of drudgery of their existence down in Antarctica, separated from society and their loved ones, and truly just love at all. The love of Jesus is the only whiff of love that the scientists can get down there in Antarctica. And I'm glad that the Atlantic agrees. Anyways, they're down there studying the demise. Many sightseers bring a whiff of last chance tourism, a desire to see a place before it's gone, even if that means helping hasten its disappearance. Jeez Louise. Perversely, the climate change that imperils Antarctica is making the continent easier to visit. Melting sea ice has extended the cruising season.
Oh my gosh.
Travel companies are scrambling to add capacity. Cruise lines have launched several new ships over the past couple of years. Yeah, Silversea's ultra-luxurious Silver Endeavor is being used for fast-track trips. Time-crunched travelers can save a few days by flying directly to Antarctica in business class. There we go. Over-tourism isn't a new story, Gons, but Antarctica, designated as a global commons, is different from any other place on Earth. It's less likely to be too crowded national park and more like the moon. It's more like the moon than a national park, Gons.
Why is Antarctica always compared to a thing in space, allegedly?
Yes.
It's either Mars, it's the moon, and we actually, now that I remembered that, we did drop a whole Antarctica, the blood of Antarctica. It was a whole thing because there's a big hole in the ice.
Blood falls.
And there's red blood looking like thing that comes out of it. And we saw that there were reports a few months ago that they solved the whole 100-year-old thing. But there was another story recently that said the same thing, that they solved the mystery, but that they were using little nanospheres. That's what the word they used. There was nanospheres that caused this iron-rich thing to happen. And so I had a whole theory laid out that we dropped, but I'll say it now, which is that by the time Elon Musk gets ready for a Mars visit, a 1969 remake going to the moon, except it's going to Mars. It'll be 2029. That's the year he said. We'll see so much iron spillage in Antarctica that it's going to start to turn red. It's going to be like an icy red. And then, they'll say that all these astronauts went to Mars. It'll take about 4 or 5 months to get there. But in reality, it'll be right around 2030. We'll have a whole crew, cameras, everything. And people will believe that these people are on Mars, but really they're just in Antarctica. Because now they're shutting it down, obviously, with this Atlantic article. They want people to stop coming. It's like, all right, we got the attention. All right, shut it down. Shut it down. We have too much sensitive information and materials here.
Yeah, I mean, all those missile silos and UFO test ranges.
This place has to flip into Mars in 5 years, folks. Come on.
Yeah.
Stop coming. Stop coming.
It, of course, goes into, climate change, and the cruise ships are bad for the penguins. It literally says their very presence, talking about humans and cruise ships. North Carolina State scientists have shown stresses out penguins and could affect the animals' breeding. We're stressing out these penguins. But here, you'll recognize some in here. Yet, as tourism gets more popular, companies are competing to offer high contact experience. High contact experience. Go tackle a penguin. You ever want to punch a seal in the face? Come down to John Swan's high contact penguin experience. That are more exciting than gazing at glaciers from the deck of ships. Last year, for instance, a company named White Desert.
I remember White Desert.
Yes, White Desert is at it again. Opened its latest luxury camp in Antarctica. It's sleeping domes. Remember the sleeping domes? Roughly 60 miles from the coast, are perched near Emperor Penguin Colony and can be reached only by private jets. Guests who pay at least $65,000 a stay are encouraged to explore the continent by playing Ski-Doo's Arctic truck before enjoying a gourmet meal whose ingredients are flown in from South Africa.
They got to fly them in because not much there other than...
It's you got to eat penguins or fly it in from South Africa.
Yeah.
All of this adds up. A recent study found that less than a third of the continent is still pristine. I'm sorry. Bull hockey. Less than a third of the continent is still pristine, with no record of any human visitation. Those untouched areas don't include Antarctica's most biodiverse areas like wildlife. Blah, blah, blah.
So they don't include certain parts.
Yeah, they don't include lots of parts. They're kind of just saying whatever they want, including the false and misleading information that, the ice is melting to a degree that we should all be very worried about. Then it goes into the Antarctic Treaty, goes into the IATO, the International Antarctican Alliance, blah, blah, blah. I will say this. They do want to mention, to help steer you away, you filthy humans, away from Antarctica, they have this here that says, accidents also have a way of happening, despite the best intentions. In 2007, the MS Explorer, a 250-foot expedition cruise ship, sank near penguin breeding grounds on the South Shetland Islands, leaving behind a wreck and a mile-long oil slick. Most cruise ships are registered in what Stephens calls flag-convenient countries that are lax on oversight. Oversight! Quote, if you have a cruise ship going down in Antarctica, it's not going to be the same seriousness as the Exxon Valdez, he said, but it's not going to be pretty. We're destroying Antarctica by telling people to go visit. It's been 3 years that we've been obsessing about Antarctica, and those 3 years have contained nothing but repeated message after message after message after imploring the public to go visit Antarctica, because you become an Antarctic ambassador just simply by going there. you get to call yourself an Antarctic ambassador, and you're supposed to go home and tell everybody, to take care of Antarctica. Well, we have too many Antarctic ambassadors, Gons. Too many of them. I think they've filled the rosters for, test subjects that they've been testing on down there, letting people through the interdimensional veil, into the next realm. It's very strange. This is a very strange turn of events. I believe the Atlantic itself was encouraging people to go to Antarctica as recently as last year.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's only meant for the rich.
Yeah. They do mention, because you made the point, the treaties that govern Antarctica helped lay the foundation for space agreements. Space is already crowded and all junked up with human-made debris. Tourism will only add to the problem. Really? Do you think
people are going to leave their bags of their bags of Doritos in space when they go on their little
litter out the window? Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Experts are warning that this is intensely polluting. We're polluting outer space, Gons. Tourism will only add to the problem. Experts are warning that it is intensely polluting and could deplete the ozone layer.
Hey, if you're going to go on one of these,
we just learned that the ozone layer filled up again. It's not depleting anything.
Well, no, it's going to. You're not allowed to fart when you're up in space. That's what's going to be.
Well,
that
is true. That's not for pollution. That's just because you're stuck in a tin can with a bunch of other people.
All right. I think it's time to go, Basil. You got more on this?
Just let me finish out this thing.
Love
here. If we can't jointly act to put Antarctica off limits, Gons, we must act together to put Antarctica off limits. Our view of the moon may eventually be marred. Get it? It's all connected, Gons.
Just like how we can't get to the moon.
If you mess up Antarctica, you mess up the moon. Imagine a SpaceX branded glamping resort or a Blue Origin oasis stocked entirely by Amazon's space delivery business. Please, I want to imagine the Blue Origin oasis. As a species, we're not very good at self-restraint. See AI. Weird comment. And these days, few arenas exist where individual decisions make a difference. Antarctica could be one of them. Maybe, despite our deepest impulses to explore, we can leave one place in the world alone. Leave it alone, Gons.
Yep, that's quite the 180. I mean, they were really, hey, everyone should come here. They were probably campaigning to attract the wealthy. And once they got what they needed, they're like, all right, stop coming. Shut it down.
Yeah, it became too affordable. All these middle-class losers taking cruises to Antarctica. It really took a lot of the luxurious feel out of it. It made it so pedestrian as soon as people could afford to take the Jimmy Buffett cruise to Antarctica. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I want to thank a few more producers. Thank them by groups here, starting with our Clippies.
Clippy on those videos. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Clippies. They're clipping the show, making the segments. Go to Canary Cry Clips channel on YouTube and Odyssey. And that's made possible by the Timestampers.
Timestamp, it's hard work. Timestamp.
On the job, Jade Bouncerson, Christine C. doing the timestamps for episode 641. We really appreciate it.
That might be wrong. Hold on one second.
Okay, we'll double check. Double check Arunski. Little double check Arunski, but thank you to whoever the timestamper is. It's very helpful.
Morgan E.
Thank you very much for those timestamps, Morgan E. Thank you to Jam for the links. Are these names correct here? Thank you to Sam L. and James P. for sending in some articles. Thank you to Clank for the assistance. And other than that, folks, just share the show. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. Share it with your friends' family and your house plants and your dogs and your cats. Share the show with whoever will listen, but you don't have to share it in a normal way. You can always get creative. A lot of people like to get a little bit creative with how they share the show. You don't just have to put the show into a nice cardboard box and tape it up and ship it off to an Amazon fulfillment center. It's for a return credit. And It's Amazon. They're pretty good on returns, but I don't know how much credit they'll give you for sending a podcast back. But if you really want to share the show in a way that might catch people's attention, go ahead and let's see here. Go and get really into sports, become very athletic and shredded and ripped, and then run for office. Apparently now, if you want to run for the presidential race to compare yourself against the octogenarians that we are going to be left with as choices, we must get some gymnasts and some sprinters. We must get some swimmers, Gons, up on the podium. Tell us that the president need not only be mentally capable, but also physically capable of accomplishing some sort of American Ninja Warrior obstacle course. This should be part of the decision-making process. It is not just about debates. It's not just about policy, and it's not just about who has the most exciting sort of scandal. We need to start adding physical endurance and honestly, pain tolerance. This all needs to be added to the presidential races. And for all the athletic Canarians out there, I recommend you go put your paperwork in and run for office. And when you're up, you're making your stump speeches. A part of your whole thing is you can rip off your shirt, and with your glistening diamond-cut abdominals, you can have a Canary Cry News Talk tattoo just emblazoned across your belly. And this will be a great way to sort of connect our brand, Canary Cry News Talk, with the fitness enthusiastic presidential candidates. And trust me, you will have our support, and it'll be a great way to get the word out about the show. You can do it that way. You can do it any way you want. But we call it rattling cages, and if you need any more instructions, here's what you do. You walk right up to him, grab him by the cage, and then you shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right. Just ask Noah. Guns, any last words?
We'll see everybody Friday. The Zuckerberg-Musk rivalry is heating up with Zuckerberg releasing Threads.
Ooh.
And also, I don't know why, but I pictured in my head as we were talking about Antarctica and the White Desert, a headline that says, scientists discover 90% of the snow in the White Desert is cocaine.
Yeah,
and then
it's just a matter of time.
And then he wakes up, and then Hunter looks around and is in a panic. He can't find his little baggie.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know.
That makes sense.
My
Thanks,
brain
everybody,
doing things.
for tuning in to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Make sure to tune in next time. But until then, think outside the cage.
I love the Great Reset.
It will kill.
This is the United States of America, for God's sake.
We will hunt you down and make you pay.
Armageddon's on the way.
Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Buy gold. Buy!
You little rascal. I am so hot.
You're so hot.
I'm... Gons. I am so hot.
So hot.
Trapped inside a place we made but don't recognize. We look in the mirror, it's our faces, they got blackened eyes. Can't believe what the world has done to kill the wonder of its sons. My only hope was in yesterday. My only hope is in my child's play. Freeze our breath and burn our lungs. These wicked thoughts of Babylon. They freeze our breath and burn our lungs. We know exactly what they've done. They'll pay for all the blood they've spilled. They'll pay for the sons of God they Sorry for not responding sooner. Sorry I just stood to cower. There's no more making sense. There's no more riding on the fence. It's our final hour. I can't believe what the world has done to kill the wonder of its sons. My only hope was in yesterday. My only hope is in my child's play. They freeze our breath and burn our lungs. These wicked sons of Babylon. They freeze our breath and burn our lungs. We know exactly what they've done. They'll pay for all the blood they've spilled. They'll pay for the sons of God they As I stand, my head held high, my shoulders back, we had our time. Inside, they won't eclipse. Dear God, bring your apocalypse. We thought our time would never come. We thought we were the righteous ones. We thought our time would never come. We thought we were the righteous ones. Our ambition, we became those wicked sons of Babylon.
Bye. I'm out of here. Bye.
Canary cried, I suppose.